I love this session. It's my favorite session of Vulcana for two reasons. First of all, because I think it's incredible to see what talented young scientists we already have in the Canary Islands doing some really interesting work. But secondly, it just opens your eyes to how much science there is still to be done. So if you're considering coming to do some research in the Canary Islands, you know, there's still a lot that needs to be done, and some incredible people to collaborate with, which is fantastic. Okay, and now we're going to grill you. Okay, thank you very much again to our students. Does anybody have some questions from their presentations? It's really helpful for them if we come up with some questions, because it's a really good task to be able to defend the work that you're doing. So if I could have some questions from the floor, please. ¿Tienen preguntas para los estudiantes? Eugenio, you go first.
Yo tengo 40.000 preguntas, pero no. Thank you so much. Sharon have already said this is also one of my favorite sessions because you are the future for the science. So always will be a space for you in VulcanaSymposium. And thank you so much. You have done a really great job. I've got a million of questions, but I know all the themes. So I would like you in the area if you've got some questions for the young researchers that they know me.
Thank you. I think we have some questions over here. A ver, Sergio. Si dices tu nombre y de dónde eres y después venimos a ti, Alexis.
En español, en inglés. English. Hi, I'm Sergio. I'm with GeoTenerife. I wanted to ask a question to Raul in English. I just wanted to know if there were any dating efforts for all of the new, I assume new volcanic edifices that they found on the north of La Palma, because I find it really interesting that there's cones that hadn't been seen before in a part that was known to be older. And he mentioned that it was kind of, they were covering all these gullies that were in the older parts of the island. So I just want to know if there's any dates for those new cones.
Vale, Raúl,
No he escuchado, con mucho eco. No.
Vale, te repito la pregunta y lo hago en español y así tenemos los dos idiomas. Si no he entendido mal, pues la pregunta es un poco sobre si hay dataciones de todos esos edificios volcánicos que se han encontrado al norte de la isla, ¿no? Que eran un poco sorprendentes porque es la zona más antigua y sin embargo hay como mucha presencia, ¿no? de conos volcánicos. Entonces, bueno, que si hay datos de edades o si se están haciendo este tipo de estudios, etcétera. ¿No?
No, de momento solo hemos trabajado con datos de batimetría, no tenemos muestreos de las estructuras volcánicas. Sería un siguiente paso para completar el estudio, así como tener datos de sísmica que nos permitan diferenciar entre las diferentes estructuras volcánicas si son conos volcánicos, son diques, son coladas y demás.
De acuerdo, gracias, Raúl.
Thank you very much. Alexis, I think you had a program for a question. Sorry?
Yeah, thank you very much. Alexis Schwartz from GeoTenerife. This question goes to Javi. Given your experience in all these studies about resilience and so on, what do you think it would be the better to do in order for the population to be more aware about the volcanic risk in Tenerife in particular?
Okay, so I think what is key is to always have a stream of information going from scientists or government institutions to the population, even if we feel that information doesn't reach the population. As long as there's a stream of information, something will always trickle down to the people. And in that way, yes, that's just it. Just to have like a constant stream of information, and even though if to begin with the information doesn't reach them, it'll trickle down, and some of it will reach, and I guess always trying to find new ways of informing them, either from, like, for example, we found that the group chat in Gratigo was really powerful to get information across. So maybe include new techniques like those, or also even making use of traditional sources like Televisión Canaria, which can always we can always get in contact with them to see if they can publish some information, but also even maybe changing the mindset of, instead of just releasing information, thinking more like if we were a business and we wanted to sell our information. So we make this information attractive for people to engage with it.
Thank you very much, Javi. Thank you. I think we have a question over here. Si me dices tu nombre, your name, and where you're from.
Well, hi, my name is Ainhoa, and I'm from the Marine Biologist Masters here in La Laguna. And my question is for Jun. So you were mentioning that in the Phylum Porifera, you had like released specimens and list species found in your videos, and I wanted to ask you if you knew if the reason was because the VR program in R wasn't recognizing these species, or because of what you say that the pores where the flux of the water goes in and out of the porifera, if that's because it's infested with the acid. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. Yeah, it was just when we saw this, I talked to my colleagues about this, and probably is some ash. And also, if you look all the records, you will see most of the sponges are partially burrowed, and buried, yeah. And then these kind of sponges, once they are covered by sediment or whatever particle that it's blocking the pores. Normally, I haven't seen that, but some other people that has a lot of experience with this, they do. They normally, when they die, they just fall down from the rocks where they are attached. So that's how they. Maybe because of the currents, you won't see anything that they were there, but once the pores are blocked, they just fall down and they die. So in this case, because of the volcanic ash that was falling down for 3 months or more or less, at that rate, sedimentation rate, that we don't know actually how was the sedimentation rate of the volcanic ash, or the deposition rate, sorry. Probably, all these sponges are probably dead. And some of the corals as well. The corals with short length, So yeah, I hope it's answered.
Thank you very much. We have another question over here. Thank you.
Hi, Veronica from here. I'm curious about the same question that Javier had, that they didn't know whether it was intentional, that for the people not to know about the drill in Garachico, or it was just that the message didn't get through. So maybe Eugenio would tell us the answer. I don't know, because he was wondering that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we can perhaps re-ask it this afternoon in our emergency management session, because we will have some good voices there who will certainly be able to speak about that in the question and answer. So keep that for later on. That's a great question. I think there was a question up here as well. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe. I'm from the University of La Laguna, from Argentina. I wanted to ask you something to you, Claudia. You said something about the biotechnology applications of the microorganisms. Can you explain another, probably, application, despite the one that you mentioned?
Okay, no. So, for example, we've got this. This is a complicated question, because I think it's work from other people. But for example, we are having or seeing lots of bioengineering proposals in the last years, in the last few years. Also because climate change is a problem, and we are all taking like a look to this and trying to propose lots of solutions that involve biology. And for example, I know that there are some people that are trying to improve culture bacteria that can have the function of removing CO2 from the atmosphere. So for example, this can be an application of bacteria in biotechnology.
Thank you very much. That's great. I think we have a question over here from Tom.
This is for Claudia again. Sorry. You mentioned that you attached different sampling techniques to the ROV. Did you find any differences between them, or were they consistent?
Yes, this was something that I wanted to check because I had like the idea that using, for example, the suction, the pistol driven that we have in the rope could produce some differences with the rosette sample, the Niskin bottles, but the reality is that we've got like consistent samples, and there are no significant difference between sampling oceanographic instruments. But it's true that, for example, for sediments or rocks, is indifferent if we use a mesh or the arms. It seems that we have lots of DNA that then can we work with it. But I was really worried about the hydrothermal fluid samples, and it seems that there is no problem between the oceanographic instruments.
Thank you very much. We have another question here, please.
I'm Saiba, I'm Indonesian, studying in Germany. My question to Claudia, how long can these microorganisms survive after preservation? And then can this microorganism help to produce H2S at subsurface? Thank you.
You repeat the question, please, because I don't hear it well.
How long this microorganism can survive after preservation?
¿Cuánto duran los microorganismos después de que los preserva?
Yes, I was thinking about in situ observations, but you're talking about the culture bacteria. Yeah, we preserve the samples with a mix of glycerol, and this is a cryopreservator. And we have the samples for a long term, and it seems that some will last, and other ones maybe we can lose them. But this is something that we are worried also, because having a culture collection is something that it seems really easy, but it needs a lot of effort and time. And it should be not the work for just one person, but for many of it, because we need to check and relive the bacteria sometime to see if they are well preserved, or to try and preserve them again and implement new techniques in our protocols. So I don't know why in science culture collection seems something like, I don't know, like, ¿cómo dirías? Como que no, I don't know how to explain that, but like they are not, it's not important, it's something from the past. And the thing is that we need it to improve our knowledge of bacteria and to spend some time and money on it.
Thank you very much. We have another question up here. See?
Jessica from Brazil. Eu queria falar com o Javier se como a população recebe as informações que dão sobre os riscos, essas coisas. Entende isso?
Como la recibe?
Sí.
Con miedo, con...
Sí.
Sí. So, yes. So Jessica would like to know your experience of how people receive that volcanic risk information. Were people concerned? Were they grateful? Were they afraid? What was your experience?
Okay, so first I would like to when I went out to simulate surveying the new lava flows from this simulated eruption, we went up to the settlements of Garachico, which were located in the highest altitude. And the first place that was really striking to me, we parked our car in someone's driveway, which we shouldn't have done, but the man came out and asked what we were doing, and we told him that there was a volcanic drill taking place, and that we were simulating that we were taking samples. And this was the first time that this person had known about the volcanic drill, or that anything about this was happening. And then we asked him, and it was because
It's set to music, your answer.
so this was really striking, because we were like, how can this happen in the current world where everyone has access to information? How can it be that this person here doesn't know anything about the drill? And it was a coincidence that this man, that he didn't have 4G connection at his house, and then he didn't have Wi-Fi. So so this is an instance of someone that's living a normal life, but isn't receiving any information. Then another example of how people receive information was when we went further down in altitude, and we had people coming up to us concerned because there was a drill taking place. So they were asking if we were doing this because an actual eruption was going to happen and we were just practicing. But obviously we're practicing in case there was an eruption, but not an eruption that's going to take place now. It's just like just in case for the future. So they were concerned, but then when they received even more information from my colleagues from CSIC, I think they felt the closeness of being informed by them in person, and the actual information that my colleagues gave to them made them feel much more relaxed. I think it also increased their trust in scientists. So this is an example of some people that were concerned by the information which they received, but then received more information from a trusted source, or someone that knew what they were speaking about. When they were informed in this such close manner, they really understood, and their general perception of everything became much better.
Thank you, Javi. That's great. And thank you for the question, Jessica. Luca, I think you had a question over here. If you just say your name and where you're from.
It's Luca here from the Oceanographic Center of Canary Islands. I got a question for Jon. Did you observe some species in terms of bentonic species that better resisted to volcanic degassing? And if there was some change in terms of bentonic communities before the eruption and after the eruption? And then as a reflection for future perspective, in your opinion, can Tagoro hydrothermal vents can be used as kind of natural laboratories to study the effect of acidic water and hotter water on bentonic organisms, since we know that it's kind of mimicking our future ocean. That means hotter and more acidic. In your opinion, the hydrothermal vents can be used as for future studies in this sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. The first question was about if I've seen any species that that holds better the condition of the Tagoro volcano, no? Yeah. Not the Tajogaite. Okay, the thermal vent. These videos that we have presented today are from 2021 as well. So there has been 10 years from from the start of the from the volcano eruption, and since then, it is interesting to see that in the areas where the hydrothermal vents are present, there's no live. Actually, we have seen some serpulids attached to the substrate, but it was just 2 specimens in total. But and also once you are, you can see once you are arriving to the rocky substrate and I'm going away from the hydrothermal vents. You can start to see some sort of change in the communities, starting with, for example, the Antipates furcata. And actually, it was interesting to see that, for example, first of all, you can see the Antipates furcata cohabit with Antiasantes, for example, and some Serranus atricauda. But then, for example, there are no sponges, which is very interesting ones because they are filtered. They are filters organism. But yeah, that's all we have seen interesting. Maybe sometimes the length of the organism can be interesting because it's not the same for example, the Antipates furcata, which maybe it's 20 centimeters length at maximum, compared to the Stiocopates gracili that can grow to a few meters sometimes. So maybe that once you are maybe 1 meter on top of the substrate, the conditions that on top of 1 meter above the surface could be different, for this organism in terms of finding food. And then for the second question, I totally agree that this area, this hydrothermal vent, could be an interesting laboratory. Also, in the case for vented communities, to study how corals, for example, can grow in these conditions, which corals can be a better can have a better role in terms of colonize this area, and also sponges and these kind of things. So it will be interesting to maybe go take more dives in order to look for species there, take some samples, also in genetics, maybe epigenetics can be interesting to see if these corals present some sort of difference between a control area where conditions are normal, stable, and then the Tagora volcano. So yeah, there are plenty of opportunities there.
Lovely, thank you. I think we'll just have time for 1 or 2 more questions before we break for lunch. We just have a quick question up here.
Hi, I'm Emmeline. I'm from the United States. I have a question for Javier. First clarification, I had thought that you were talking about 2 different sites from 2024 to 2025 because you were talking about there's flat roofs here and then there were also flat roofs here. But then when you talked about the people's perception of science, this area had like 1.7% like that they trusted the science, and then the other one the following year was like a lot higher. So how are you able to compare them and say like, oh, this is how much they grew and this is like, was it the same population of people that grew? If so, do you know what things happened to improve their trust in the scientists? Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's a complex question. So yes, it was from 2 different sites, wasn't it, Javi? And obviously this is a pilot study, so I don't think you've drilled down in detail into why there's been that change, but your thoughts on that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, so as Sharon said, there are 2 different sites. One is in the central southern section of the island, and another one is on the northwest. But and obviously, we can't survey everywhere. We need to go where it's more interesting or where we think it's more valuable at that time. But we also have outside information. So I think, or from what we've seen, there's a general trend in that there's an increase in the trust in scientists because we've seen examples of, for example, IGN being much more involved in releasing press statements. For example, when there's been all of the seismic events, we've had IGN providing information. Then we also have other organizations such as in Vulcana, which also publish relevant information. So we even though we haven't studied the same place, we have the outside information that there's more being done, and there's the general sense outside of both places is that the trust in scientists is being built up.
Thank you, Javi. Any more questions from here? Yes, sorry.
Hi, I'm Naomi, and I wanted to ask Sara a question about the silicates. You said that when you freeze them, they get into polymers, and I was asking if maybe you had to make tests to see at which temperature that happens, because when you get away from the thermal vents, the temperature in the ocean also drops. So I was interested if this also happens in the ocean, because it would mean that they wouldn't be available as nutrients for plants, phytoplankton, etc. And I think that would be interesting to know.
Thank you for your question. It's basically, it's mainly research, like the few information that is available right now about the silicate. The experiments that have been carried out in the same way, like proposing the thermal treatment and all of that, it's already been established that it has to be 50 degrees, because lower temperature just wouldn't work for the breaking of the polymer. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. We just have one more question over here.
Thank you. I'm Claudia Sensi from Puerto de la Cruz. Thank you for doing the effort of explaining your research. But I'm not biologist nor geologist, but I work in communication, and I'm afraid that my worry is if you work together to have a big picture of what is happening in the ecosystem. Because, for example, Claudia showed us how chemicals, or little part of the whole, do, but how it affects to what is the macrofauna evolution. Then I'm afraid that each branch of the knowledge as working a part of the whole. Are you working together? Are you interpreting the results, listening to others? How do you used to do?
This is such a great question, isn't it? And it goes right to the heart of a lot of what institutions do, what companies do. So much is dependent on what funding is available. Maybe funding has become available and but lasts for 4 years and then runs out. So it's a great question. How do you guys collaborate? You're obviously working on something that has crossovers, that is, has a synergy. How do you work together to try and build that fuller picture?
Thank you for the question first. I will give my opinion, and then if you want to add something. We work in the oceanography field, so we need lots of expertise to have the full picture of an ecosystem. For example, in the Vulcana team, we are not only biologists or geologists, we have chemical and physical data that is analyzed by the physics and the chemics. And for example, how I work, or the Vulcana showed me how to work team, I have this microbial data, and then I search for links with higher trophic levels. For example, in my case, marine microbes are the base of the food web, and their function is really important in the whole ecosystem because their changes, their responses affect the whole communities that follow them. That's why I wanted to show with this slide that I was talking about, phytoplankton, then zooplankton, bacteria, then you have fishes, or you have the benthic communities. And the way of working is this, also presenting our results, taking notes of the opinions of other scientists, of common people that also bring some interesting subjects that maybe we are not looked before. And for one example that also I gave in my presentation is I identified these dinoflagellates that are parasitic of other organisms, and I know that they are affecting some copepods that are the zooplankton fraction. And as I don't work with zooplankton, I search for bibliography or researchers that has been there before, and then I talk to them and compare our results and have these hypotheses tested, like for example that some blastodinium can affect and reduce the diversity of copepods. So we really work together, but in my point of view, it's really difficult as a scientist to, in 10, 20 minutes, provide all this information in an easy manner that everyone understands, and to reach people outside science is really difficult. And that's why we also in the Oceanographic Center, we make efforts in outreach activities. For example, next week we have all week dedicated to show our activities to the society. And then maybe we use an easier talks, or we try to modify our ways of communicating to make it more easier and accessible. But these opportunities, working in a symposium or just, I don't know, between laboratories, we have a big group and we talk a lot between us. And also when we embark in these cruises, we take into account all the opinions of all the experts, not just the most senior one. They also listen to us, and this is really good for in this case, the Vulcana team to improve and to have bigger results. So to answer your question, yes, we communicate between us in different spaces, and we take into account the opinion of all expertise.
Thank you very much. Sara, ¿quieren añadir algo? No? Okay, I think that was a great answer and very comprehensive.
Maybe
yes, sure, please.
Well, I have no words actually, because I support everything she has said before. But I just want to say that in my case, for example, once we were working on especially on the Tajogaite submarine lava flows, we were looking for hydrographic data that could explain if there was any support the difference between the control area and the impact area. And I remember looking for hypotheses how to explain this. And for example, going to Alba, asking for, oh, I read your paper and you said this. It's possible that this explains these kind of things. So in the end, it's always a conversation and an argument, conversation. Exchanging ideas, and because I'm not a specialist, I prefer to talk, and before saying something, just corroborate it. And that's how we work, I think, and it is good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I can see you, Boris. Boris, lovely to see you. We will see you later on in the session. I wanted to say thank you. If there's any other burning questions, no? If not, we'll stop for lunch. I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for your questions and your participation, because that's what makes these sessions really rich. And that's exactly why we do, well, one of the reasons that we do VulcanaSymposium, to allow for these opportunities for the young scientists here to have this opportunity. And I'm going to do a quick fire round of just one question, because we have a room full of young scientists here, starting out in their careers. If you had one piece of advice in a short phrase you wish somebody had told you at the beginning, what would it be?
not too afraid to change topics. Like
there's always going to be people that will try to drag you down and tell you that you're not here for this. Don't listen to them. Just ignore them.
Okay. Well, just to, I think just to be enthusiastic with whatever you are working on, and work hard. That's all.
I'd say don't be scared to work with new people. As at least in my experience, everyone I work with has been amazing, and I've really enjoyed it, and I really learned a lot. So don't be afraid to move into new spaces to work with new people.
Very nice. Okay. Very nice. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Aren't they amazing? They've done a fantastic job.